I was reading a sociology book, college-level sociology book, and there's Kinsey.
That's right.
And I just was like,
yeah.
How does this guy know all of this, you know?
Exactly.
And so I started researching, and the more I researched, the first thing that came to me that alerted me was that he admitted somewhere that many of these individuals were from prisons. And I'm like, prisoners lie about everything, you know, and a lot of them would enjoy really pulling his chain, you know, and telling him stuff.
Actually, it turns out the students all lied too.
Okay.
I mean, they weren't going to tell him. Nobody was giving the facts.
In 1948. Who was going to admit they were homosexual in 1948?
And I interviewed several kids, not kids, but adults, who were interviewed at the time, and they were the women. Well, I was one. You know, some were traumatized, but they were talking about the guys thought it was the funniest thing they ever got involved in, and you know they had to answer, and they thought that was a great job. But in fact, most of our guys in those years were virgins. Good morning, America.
Right. Well, is it
in college?
So here I was reading about Hugh Hefner being a virgin in college.
In college, he wasn't proud of it.
Yeah.
You know, but that's the way it was. People didn't do those things. The only people who did those things were either in prison, or they were out, you know.
A deviant lifestyle, and I don't mean, when I say deviant in that time frame, I'm talking about like breaking the law, because he did say that if persons could, he interviewed lots of people who were breaking the law, and he kept saying that they had more chances to, I can't remember his terminology, but he was basically meaning that they were having more chance to have sex, therefore he would interview them and say that if the common man would break the taboos that the lawbreakers had already broken, they would enjoy themselves more, and it's like...
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, let's understand.
Okay.
Most important thing that I've been trying to get through to people is he couldn't interview the common man because the common man was in Iwo Jima.
Okay. I got you.
Okay?
Yes.
The common man, oh, it brings tears to my eyes because I'm old enough to remember. I still do this. I still have a hard time. Okay. He couldn't because 80-some% of his interviews took place during World War II. That means that none of those guys had permission to say a word to him about anything.
The people in the armed forces?
No, or anybody even working in plants, even at home, anybody involved in the defense of the nation? No way. Absolutely no way. First of all, it was illegal. It was it couldn't happen. No guys could do that. You remember? And I've got all. You remember all the posters? Well, you don't remember, but
I do remember the posters about tight lips, sink ships, and things of that nature. Yeah,
loose lips, sink ships.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
You don't say anything to anybody. Not only that, but the proof of the pudding is in his reports when he identifies the people that he interviews. He doesn't identify any group of military people at all. There were no military people. And of course, he was a draft dodger himself, and his lovers, he got them excused from the war. I mean, and used vital, it still makes me crazy today, in my age, use vital gas and oil and tires in order to do his sex things that he was doing in the bars and in the baths while our guys were getting strafed and killed over there. And we were being rationed over, all of this was being rationed over here?
Absolutely. Okay. I need to ask some questions just to get some...
See, I get going on World War II.
Here's the thing. I want to ask Dr. Reisman a question. This goes to credentials. And what I'm wanting to do is I want our audience to realize when I tell about you, I basically say to me that you're a legend. That's how I feel about you. And I want to know, how did you get, for instance, how were you commissioned in the Justice Department report? How is it that you rose to that level? Did they pick you? How did that happen?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I had been writing a book on child sexual abuse. It was called From Shirley Temple to Pretty Baby, the Journey of the Child.
Okay.
And I was in the United States. I was living in Israel.
Okay.
I got well, actually, let me precede that. No, I got a call from a gentleman named Pat Buchanan. Are you familiar with him?
The Pat Buchanan politician?
Right.
Okay,
well,
sure.
He's a reporter.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, he was a politician.
All right.
He worked for 2 presidents. I got a call from Pat Buchanan. He was doing a television show called Crossfire at the time. It was two guys, a liberal and a conservative, and they were debating. And I get a call from him when I was in Israel, and he said, "Hi, my name is Pat Buchanan. You don't know me?" I said, "Yeah, I know you.
Mm-hmm.
I know you." And he said, "Well, I have a chapter here." He said that you wrote. It's supposed to go into a book, and the book got killed. But anyway, he said it's supposed to go into a book, and he said, and it's about Kinsey, and you have identified 317 infants and children in this book, in this chapter, who were being used in sexual experiments by Kinsey and his team. He said, "Are you prepared to defend that?" I said, "I wrote it, obviously. I'm prepared to defend it."
Right.
I was teaching at the time at Haifa University, and I was about to take a position also as the head of their Department of Communication.
Is this in the 80s?
Yeah.
In the 80s,
it was in the
okay.
80s.
All right.
It was in the 80s. And so he said, "Well, I would really like to interview you. Are you going to stand behind that?" Yes, I would. He sent down a Time magazine reporter from Jerusalem. The guy came in from Jerusalem, interviewed me, and he had dead eyes. I was talking to him, and I could see he's not registering anything.
Right.
And so I thought, well, that's not going to work. And the editor of the book at the time, Dr. Muir, who was a medical doctor with Glaxo at that point, called and said that Buchanan would like to interview me in the United States. Could I come to the States? And he sent me a ticket and flew me out right away. It was in the old days. All you did was walk into, give him a piece of paper, and I think you needed a passport then, but that was it. And so the next day, day after, I was in the States. Buchanan interviewed me on his program. In the process of interviewing me, he requested that the Kinsey people debate me. This was a debating program.
Yes. Yeah.
And the Sixth World Congress of Sexology was in Washington, D.C. at the time. So all the big names were there. So Buchanan's producer called the major people, John Money, who turns out to be a major supporter of pedophilia, and Mary Caldron, who headed up Planned Parenthood, SICAS at various points, and several other people. They all claimed they didn't know me and they would not debate me. And then in the process, John Money said, "I don't know who she is, and I can't stand her anyway, so I'm certainly not going to." See, wait a minute, you don't know who she is.
Yeah,
but
were you ready?
Stand.
Were you ready for that debate at that point?
Of course.
I mean, all of this information you had already documented. All this. Well, the 317 children, that's right in the book. Why would you have to defend that?
Exactly. There's nothing. There's no issue.
Why did he
there.
not know that? That's what when you said that immediately.
They all knew it. But anyway, they refused. They ended up refusing to debate me.
So at that point, I'm asking you the question: how did the Justice Department get a hold of you? Nobody knew you. They wouldn't.
Right.
Okay. How did you move from that point to that?
Well, I was on the television show at Buchanan, Crossfire, and at the end of that show, the liberal guy, Bill Braden, I think is his first name, who usually fights Buchanan tooth and nail. At the end of that show, he said, "I would think we should really dig up this Kinsey guy and put his head on a post."
Really?
Yeah, he said, "This is absolutely appalling."
Let's get his name. What was it?
Braden.
Okay, is
Braden. I don't know if he's still alive.
I'm saying, how would I search him? Was he some?
Yeah, he was a big reporter.
Okay, I need to make sure that
on the par with Buchanan. Buchanan.
What administration were we in at that time?
We're with Reagan.
Okay, we're with Reagan, and he's saying he's interested.
Reagan is interested.
I'm saying, as I remember Reagan, he would have said that he's interested in changing the status quo. And
Reagan was interested.
So did the commission start under Reagan?
My funds came in under Reagan.
Would you tell what the name of the actual?
Yeah, the United States Department of Justice, Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, because also what they were doing is they were pouring billions into the child abuse issue back in the 80s.
Okay.
We have increased that astronomically today, but they were pouring billions into the child abuse issue in the 80s. And nobody had understanding of why we were moving in this direction. And my research both on Kinsey and on Hefner because I wrote about child sexual abuse. I talked about that, the cartoons in Playboy, as well as the photographs, were of sexual abuse of children.
Let me interject at this point. I was 12 to 14 at this time, and my neighbors' kids, my neighbors were all Playboy, Penthouse, and Hustler subscribers. Now, my family wasn't, but my neighbors
Your neighbors
were. Okay,
were,
so my friends would bring Chester the Molester pictures down, and I remember as a kid we all laughed.
Ha, ha, ha.
Yes, but now that I see it, I realize that what that's doing is taking the shock value away from my generation.
Absolutely.
And now we're where we are today, and none of it is shocking.
Absolutely.
So, and so you were battling it then.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so your commission, you actually took all of these pictures.
Yeah, I was supposed
depictions.
to look at Kinsey and found that, I didn't know it at the time, but the Kinsey Institute threatened to sue my university. It was American University.
Okay.
They threatened to sue him behind my back, and everybody behind my back killed all the research on Kinsey. I couldn't do anything on Kinsey at American University.
Were they afraid, or was it academic?
Both. Oh, they were afraid.
Okay.
Oh, they were afraid. Oh, yes, they were afraid. Academic freedom does not float here.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and there was no excuse for killing it. But I ended up saying, okay, I'll just do the research on Playboy and Penthouse and Hustler, because Department of Justice was finding children being molested by children, and they were finding these kids with these magazines, and guess what? They were doing what the magazines.
All right, well, let me make it clear to our audience that what you're actually talking about is that you're going through these magazines and you're finding depictions of
children in sexual scenes with adults being molested, and everything is funny, and the children are never harmed.
Right.
It's always very funny. Uncle John and Father and everybody else, you know.
I saw one picture of Chester Molester holding two children bound, and he's naked, basically, and some joke about, do you know where your children are?
Right, these kidnapped these children.
And that's so funny. Why is that? And I, you know, even me, as I think back, why was that so funny?
Well, it's frightening. Okay, there's where you get into the brain problem.
Okay.
Because when people can't resolve the emotional trauma that they're experiencing, and especially kids, this is what's happening to our internet children who are getting all this pornography. They can't resolve this connection between a sexual scene and their state of emotion. Arousal isn't just sexual. We always understood that. It's fear, it's shame, it's horror. It's a whole broad spectrum of intense emotional states. Well, if the child can't figure out, I'm scared out of my wits, I'm ashamed I'm looking at this, but there's a sexual thing going on here.
That's warring against the shame and,
Exactly.
All right.
And he processes that as simply sexual, and he'll laugh.
Okay.
We always use laughter to cover up fear.
Yes, yeah. A lot of people that
Always
are nervous are great laughers,
absolutely,
right?
Absolutely. So we're conditioning our children. We were conditioning our children way back then, so that when we're looking at this massive problem of child sexual abuse today, infant abuse, good gracious, we've been conditioned by Playboy and the Kinsey people. And by the way, remember, Hefner said he would be Kinsey's pamphleteer.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
From a virgin to Kinsey's pamphleteer. Well, the one thing that I wanted to get out about the Department of Justice is I want people that are watching this to realize that you're not someone just sitting here who has done a lot of research and you wish that someone would have paid attention. They did pay attention.
Oh, they did. Oh, my goodness, they did.
Called.
They paid. Oh, we had 3 congressional investigations to try and kill my research. So no scientific research has ever had 3 congressional investigations. People were so frightened.
Was it the lobby for these?
Yeah. Major pornography lobby, major Kinsey sex education lobby. You see, what I was finding out would have crippled sex education in the classrooms in those years, would have crippled the pornography industry, would have done damage like crazy to the homosexual movement at the time, too. And so, I mean, I had no idea what, I just was in there doing this work for the Department of Justice and Reagan, and I thought, oh, good, okay. And we had a bona fide scientific sample. We had a very carefully designed methodology. It was content analysis. It is not challengeable at all. I mean, it's fully and completely documented. We had peer reviewers who were extremely critical, but who all, except for one, and that's a long story, I had 6 peer reviewers, the key peer reviewer was hired behind my back kind of thing because they thought that he would cripple my research. And at the end, he said, no, this is a highly acceptable research done in a very difficult field, he said, with impeccable scientific methodology, and should be recognized as such. So we got complete kudos, really, from the peers. And my research became one of the most dangerous bodies of research, I guess, really, this country has ever witnessed. I want
to move to politics for a second then, because I knew you were going to state that Reagan was for it.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Administrations after that. Now, I'm a person who, I don't believe that we're really going to change. This is just me personally. I just don't think we're going to change things on the political level. I happen to believe that the pulpits will change, but the pulpit is so corrupt today that it can't even begin to talk to a politician, because the politician turns around and says, how dare you? So I don't, that's a whole nother subject, but my point of getting this question out there is from someone like yourself who's done this study, what were the next administrations willing to do and grade them for?
Nothing.
And the Republican?
Nada.
The Republican
Zero.
also? Right,
Zero.
now see, the moral?
Nada.
Okay. All right.
Did I make that clear?
That. Yes, I believe that already. But I wanted to hear it from somebody who was actually in it.
Look. It turns out that, by the way, is my sound on?
Yes, yes.
It turns out not only was I ending up going against the massive billion-dollar pornography industry and the homosexual movement and the whole sociological sexology, sex education world, which is Planned Parenthood and Seekers and all that. Not only that, but Big Pharma. Yeah, it turns out that Big Pharma, which is financially, the biggest lobby on the Hill, Big Pharma has a huge interest in the sexual dysfunction of our society. I mean, just financial interest. I'm not talking about a political, a spirit.
Just from the treating standpoint?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, look at Viagra. Let's take a look just at that. But abortion, all these things.
I have just even, here I missed that totally until maybe 3 days ago in my research, and I'm just like, why couldn't I see that they would be involved in birth control, would lead right into that and the whole thing? Okay, I need to ask you this. Would you explain to us what is the agenda from your vantage point? What is the agenda of the sex education in the school? What are they trying to do? Why tell a first grader about their sexuality? Is it to protect them from the other first grader?
Oh, no.
What is the agenda?
Of course not. No, the agenda within the sex education community as it has been trained. Because remember, there's no field of human sexuality education until Alfred Kinsey in 1948. There is only the teaching in a classroom that sex belongs in marriage, there's the conjugal act, and if you do not have sex within marriage, you can get venereal diseases, and you can actually produce unwanted children, which they called in those years illegitimate children. And that makes you, appear badly in front of everybody, and there's no support system here except, maybe a little bit, here and there. So you don't do those things. American children don't do those things. American adults don't do those things. That's what you're taught. You get one lesson, or maybe 2 or 3, and in home economics, you're learning how to cook, you're not learning how to do sex.
So you're saying that their real agenda is to break down those taboos?
Oh, absolutely. To destroy the children's innocence, absolutely critical.
Now why can't mom and dad see that a 4th, 5th, and 6th grader who is being taught about condoms and things like that, boys, the boys are being taught this, and why can't mom and dad realize that once the boy realizes that, who is the boy thinking about using the condom with? But the same persons who are being taught at the same time. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you introduce that mindset to those young boys, and the young boys immediately target mom and dad's own daughter, which, they don't, why do they not think like that?
Well, and we have a lot of horrific data, obviously, on child sexual abuse. I just saw the data recently on what we pay for fatherless children every year, which is $99 billion, a little over $99 billion for fatherless children, just basic care and so forth. We're not talking about what happens afterwards when so many end up in prison.
Right.
So mom and dad are being told by the big experts, the sexperts, because they've been told that they couldn't educate their children properly about sex. I said, my goodness, look at the hard data. Pre-sexperts, you had venereal disease here, and now it's here.
Right.
Pre-sexperts, you had out-of-wedlock pregnancy, legitimately here, and it's here. Pre-sexperts, you didn't have AIDS. You did not have a whole broad spectrum.
I'm looking at a statistic about 1994 state prisons held 88,000 sex offenders, and 1980, 10 years before, it was 20,000, a jump of 4 times in 10 years of sex offenders. So in the next 10 years, when my generation, offspring who's not taught at all.
No, and who's going to arrest them, see, because so many of our police, our judges, everybody are now themselves adequately corrupted.
Okay, right.
So that you're going to have, we're talking about a need to lower more and more the age of consent. We're talking about the effort today to call pedophilia minor attracted persons, MAP. We don't want to stigmatize pedophiles.
What was the other man that was in the Donahue interview with you besides the videographer, Tripp?
That was...
who said that, that pedophilia was actually, what is a little tickling or whatever.
Oh, that was Tripp.
Okay, was that Tripp?
Okay. That was that
I
psychologist.
get his face mixed up with the other gentleman.
Psychologist who said, how do you, and he said, well, yes, of course, she's condemning those people. He says they were pedophiles. They used stopwatches.
Okay, now you're speaking to, what she's speaking to right now is that she's speaking to individuals who were actually doing the videotaping of the interviews with Alfred Kinsey and Pomeroy. What was his part?
Wardell Pomeroy,
yes.
Aside from being his part-time lover.
Okay, yeah.
And then running the Institute, the Advanced Study of Human Sexuality in San Francisco, which churns out all the experts that the parents think are better than they are.
All right.
Excuse me.
And he did 8,000 interviews himself as well. So.
Yeah, he claims he did. Maybe he overstated it, but he certainly did a lot of them.
Well, let me ask you this about the new movie. The Kinsey movie. Do you think that is...
Neeson?
Yes. Do you think that they're trying to get ready for a re-release of the book by softening the image?
Liam Neeson, they were trying to
republish, reprint?
Well, yes, they did reprint the Kinsey books.
Okay, lately?
Absolutely, yeah, in 2004 was
Okay, I didn't realize that, yeah.
Yeah, and pretty blue covers, I have the copies. Making absolutely no apology for the torture of infants and children. And I would say to your listeners, anybody out there that is not shocked at the fact that our #1 human sexuality educator worldwide was absolutely hands-on involved in the sexual torture.
And Phil Donahue, for everybody who's ever thought Phil Donahue was anything, I remember him exactly saying when they said, you brought up the 4-year-old child that was tortured for 26 hours to manipulate it to climax 26 times in 24 hours. And someone said, well, who would do such a thing? And Phil Donahue said, someone who needs to be on my program.
Yeah, he was trying to be funny.
Right, and there's nothing funny.
No, there was nothing funny. He did not want to put up my charts.
I saw that.
Yeah, Table 34.
Right.
I agreed to be on his program only if they put up the documents.
All right, let's talk about that document, that table for our listeners. Kinsey's report actually has in the book, and that's what Pat Buchanan that's what interested him in you, is because you made this such a provocative statement about Kinsey, but yet it wasn't provocative in any sense, really, because it was there in his book all along.
That's right.
And no one paid attention to it, and she's brought attention to it, and yet today, as I talk about it, Dr. Reisman, when I talk about Alfred Kinsey, people they're just, who in the world is Alfred Kinsey? And on the one hand, I hate to bring notoriety to him in any sense, but the station owner calls him the father of the sexual revolution, and in great terms, and that's in glowing terms. A lot of the society looks at him as the one who made it possible to do whatever we want to do.
Absolutely.
In other words, if you find out that you're sexual at 6 years old, then since you're made that way, you should also be made to use whatever happens. And I just don't understand that. I don't understand that what that leads to is the unwanted children
Absolutely.
and the abortion, and
Yeah.
it begins to spiral.
Yeah, yeah, it's tragic.
So where did Playboy, Penthouse, and Hustler, when did they come into
On the scene?
Yeah, did they just attack
Yeah.
you outright,
Oh,
or
my
was it from
goodness,
behind?
Yes.
What?
Oh, yes, oh, yes. Well, Playboy's published, I mean, I keep meaning to get the originals, you know, from the magazines. I find them and then I file them and I forget. Yeah, they've published cartoons of me, full color, you know, investigating Kinsey and so forth. Yeah, they've gotten very upset about me. And at one point, when I testified in the Mapplethorpe trial, they quote someone saying somebody should have taken a 44 Magnum,
Yeah.
and shot and said, Judith, your history.
Yeah.
I mean, these are not happy people.
Right.
You know, these are very, very distressed and disturbed.
All right, so Playboy
honesty.
took you to court.
No, oh yes, but not here.
Okay.
Oh, I kept saying, well, sue me in the United States. Come on, let's get this material into a courtroom. Let's put it before a jury of my peers. And if they think I'm wrong, let them put me away. Hey, that's great. I'll do it.
Now, was this after the commission?
Yeah.
All right,
this is
after the commission, were you-
1994. I was on a Christian program in Holland, in the Netherlands.
Okay.
And
Can you say something about the Netherlands to our audience in regard to sexuality? Where are they on the scale?
Oh my goodness, the Netherlands is considered to be the center for pedophilia.
Okay, all right. So you're
Europe.
in the Netherlands.
Yeah.
All right.
And so I'm in the Netherlands, and they're publishing the Journal of Pedophilia in the Netherlands, which
Okay.
says have sex with children.
Right.
You know, I say, well, you know, as far as incest and child sexual abuse are concerned, I said. Playboy magazine has been pushing child sexual abuse, child pornography, incest since 1954. They've done it very cleverly and systemically through their small black and white cartoons, originally with just boys, moving into girls within a 10-year period, still black and white, moving into color.
2,971 child depictions of photographs, 2,016 cartoons, 1,017 illustrations of children in their magazine out of 3,000 pictures. Is that sound accurate?
I something like
Yeah,
that.
okay.
I haven't looked at the data in a while.
Is,
But they were producing, in 1971, Playboy was running about 17 images per issue. That was their highest year. Of children in some kind of sexualized scene.
Yeah. What would children be doing in a magazine like that?
Well,
17 in each issue.
Right. Oh, that was in 1971.
Okay.
After my research came out, they dropped it.
Okay.
You know, they stopped, and then they bring back things here and there, and some little photographs, some little cartoons.
All right. Now you're back to the Netherlands.
Yeah. Right. So here I am in the Netherlands, and I make this statement on the program. And the TV program, and Playboy sues me for libel and slander in the Netherlands.
Okay.
Because if you're going to win anywhere, you know, you can win in the Netherlands.
Right.
And the poor Christian TV station, they get in touch with me, so we're going to be ruined. You know, and I said, no,
you're going to be sued. Yeah, we're going to be ruined. Okay.
We're being sued by Playboy. They're $1 trillion industry. And so I sent them a truckload of images, you know, all dated, all documented completely, and they brought it into the judge, and they moved quickly in the Netherlands, I must say. They brought it into the judge, and I think it was about 2 months later, he gave his ruling, and he said, there's nothing that Dr. Reisman says that is not established here.
Okay,
you know?
let's analyze that.
Yeah.
Persons from 1971, prior to 1971, who were subscribers of Playboy, Penthouse, and Hustler, or are we talking about just Playboy?
Just Playboy, and then Playboy.
The others
was
were worse, though, weren't they?
Well, wait a minute. Playboy is 1954. Well, December 1953, but 1954. 15 years later, we get Penthouse. 10 years after that, we get Hustler.
Okay, here's what I'm trying to bring into this analyst. If you were a subscriber back then and a regular reader, then you were actually...
You were a consumer.
You were, and you were unknowingly conditioning yourself to
Yeah.
see children involved in all these sexual scenes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Dr. Reisman, I don't think that the majority of individuals who subscribe actually realize that. I don't think that they realize that now they can see things on TV and they may wonder why it doesn't bother them, and they were conditioned
Absolutely.
40 years ago, 30 years ago.
Sure.
And you're telling me something that I didn't realize either in the research that I'm doing. I had no idea that these depictions, and now that I think about it, I'm trying to ask myself, why in the world would the children even be in the magazine?
No, they were in the magazine because he said he was Kinsey's pamphleteer, Hefner,
Yeah.
and Kinsey was promoting adult sex with children. Always was.
Well, I will admit, since I've been studying your research, I have a friend whose wife constantly, we knock doors, we just go door to door and do all kinds of things in our evangelistic work, and she's always getting online to see if there's any sex offenders in the area. You know, and I was saying, what is the deal with her? Now that I've done the research and started, you know, reading your material and whatever, I'm looking for, my children are grown, I have grandchildren now, but I'm getting online to see where the sex offenders are, and they're everywhere.
Yeah, they are.
It is unbelievable.
And I can assure you a lot of them aren't on there who ought to be on
Right.
there. We know a lot about that. No, this is very serious, and the fact that I said to you earlier, you know, in some countries they would have just shot me. You know, they just put me up against the wall
Right.
and as that woman said in
With the 44 Magnum?
Yeah, the Magnum, and taking care of this problem. So this is the United States of America. And yes, they've tried to ruin me. There's no question about that, and done a great deal of damage and harm. But I am now, you know, a visiting professor of law here at Liberty University. They are supporting my work.
If you could say something to Liam Neeson, what would you say?
Oh dear. Oh dear. I did write to him. I don't know if he ever got the
No.
letter. But I said, you know, this is a huge mistake
Yeah.
because he is a heroic figure.
Yes.
Yeah, he plays heroic parts, and he did some
The
major,
kingdom of God. He's,
Yeah.
you know, just.
And then after this, he did a big piece on child abuse and kidnapping, where he plays a hero of the
Taken.
father. Yeah.
Yes,
of,
yeah.
Of
Oh,
a child.
what a contradiction.
Yes.
Yes.
And I thought, oh my goodness, you know, where Plato said, and it's Plato, but you know, where there is no knowledge, and God, and it's biblical, where there is no knowledge,
the people are destroyed.
the
Yeah.
people are
Yeah.
destroyed. And I can't believe that Neeson, had he understood, can't believe that he would have played that kind of a role, because he's done great damage.
What's your future? What's the goal that you have? I've told people that I wonder if your goal is not to, before you pass from this place, that the Kinsey Institute will be opened up and we'll all get to see what kind of monster he really was.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely critical. We almost did a major investigation, congressional investigation in 1995, and we got hit broadside with all kinds of problems from those bad guys.
Okay.
But yes.
Indiana University.
Oh.
You know, most people do not realize.
Oh, yeah.
Indiana University is what we're talking about. The Kinsey Institute is housed at sleepy Bloomington, Indiana.
Yeah.
Indiana University. There it sits. You know, just I was doing some research here the other day, and I didn't even know this. It had to do with Chick-fil-A. And Chick-fil-A is being boycotted on Indiana University, and I'm like, what is wrong with Indiana University? And now, 6 months later, and there it is. There it is. Indiana University is the home of the Kinsey Institute.
Absolutely.
It's just.
They have been the co-conspirators.
Yeah.
Co-conspirators. And they all know.
Are you afraid of them when you say that? In any
Me?
way? Yeah, I mean, well, I shouldn't say, are you
I'm
afraid?
too
but-
old.
Yeah.
Are they going to kill me now?
Yeah. But I mean, isn't there anything they can do for you saying that they are the co-conspirators?
No, they could sue me.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
and then
they
what would we do?
should.
Yeah, yeah. You know, and I do get that from time to time. I say something that I know that's factual, and then people call me up and they call the station up and say, we're going to sue you, and that's what we say. Look, it's factual. 317 children were tortured. Who was behind it? Indiana University?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And they have covered it up ever since. Ever since.
4-month-old infants?
4-month-old baby, 2-month-old. There
Yeah.
was one of the, not table 34, the youngest is 4 months.
Okay.
One of the other tables, the youngest is 2 months. So using stopwatches?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Collectively working with a Nazi pedophile?
And you have,
excuse me?
And you have
In
the
Germany?
you have the children crying,
Screaming.
trying to fight back, and their science says that is the response, a sexual response.
Yeah, orgasm.
Yes.
That's what they're saying.
And Indiana University.
Look, I got to tell you, Indiana University's got their name on it. They republished his books.
Right.
They republished his books. And we need the money to be able to sue them. I mean, I would love it. Or just get a good judge.
What can I do with this interview to broaden the response? You know, I'm on a local station in Martinsville, Virginia, goes into Greensboro, North Carolina. That's going to be the largest city that sees it.
What
is an avenue? YouTube, it will certainly go to YouTube.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you could get it out to any large Christian organizations that really are serious about trying to redeem our culture.
I haven't met anybody, Dr. Reisman, that even knows about Kinsey in the Christian community. When I start talking about it, I got some responses about you. Somebody said she is a leftist, feminist. What was it that they said? Politically, where are you politically? Are you willing
I'm
to
at
say?
Liberty University.
Yeah, I was saying.
Does that give us any kind of sense?
Well, actually, I was telling the cameraman that you didn't fit here because I had heard that, but.
Well, when I came to when I got my grant, I certainly was extremely liberal.
Okay.
Extremely liberal. Which is one of the reasons they said to me, we don't have to worry because, you know, if you were Christian, you'd be condemned as a Christian.
Okay.
But you have this liberal background.
Okay, all right.
I was very liberal.
Is that why the media actually will listen to you to a certain degree because you're not a Bible thumper?
No, they don't listen anyway.
Okay.
They don't listen.
Okay.
But probably if I was a, quote, Bible thumper, they would scream about that,
okay.
obviously. But, and I came to understand that the liberal belief system was absolutely at the heart of what Kinsey was doing. And so that, I had to begin to reorganize my thinking.
Okay. But you said a moment ago that the other party is not helping either, so.
No. Well, I mean, I have had help from the Christian community. Okay. Not enough.
Right.
Not enough. Liberty University has been the strongest supporter that now I've had.
Okay.
I certainly had wonderful help from Dr. Jerry Falwell,
okay.
Who saved my research, and we've talked about that when it was under attack. Physically saved it, poured his resources into allowing me to reproduce everything, yeah. But so the interest is there and the will is there, but I don't think people understand until we can get them to understand the critical role that this father of the sexual revolution, and your owner is correct about that.
Right.
The critical role that he plays in every single area that the Christian community is battling today in order to survive, then we won't have the kind of campaign and propaganda campaign, really, to resurrect the information that the public needs to have.
Well, let me say this. Okay, he has agreed to air this on his own station. Rather than the owner of the WGSR, he owns 4 stations in the Martinsville, Henry County, Reidsville, Greensboro area. Once we got into your office, in that sphere, he decided, well, he would air it. So what's the most shocking thing that you can say to begin an interview so that he is a person who disagrees with you, but at the same time, he's willing to get ratings, and so if he said that you would slam him. We've talked about some of the things that he said, but I'm saying, what's the most shocking thing about Dr. Judith Reisman as far as the world is concerned? Have we already covered it? Yeah, have we already covered, like, you're accusing the father of sexual revolution of actually being a pedophile, and you're saying I can prove it?
Yeah,
and
sure.
I dare, and I'm saying, would this be a quote from you? I dare the Indiana University to try to sue me?
Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness, yes. I welcome a lawsuit from Indiana. I tried to sue them, by the way, for libel and slander, ran out of money.
Okay.
So I had to back out because I ran out of the funds that were necessary. My lawyer, who was doing a pro bono, did not wish to continue without any funding.
Okay.
So, I mean, sure, let them, if they would sue me, that would be beautiful. And then we would bring it into the courtroom, and we would have a jury decide.
All right, for the little man, I asked you about the publishing company, and I understood that the publishing company that published 3 of your books, were they from Louisiana?
No, there wasn't 3. One was Louisiana, that was the publishing company. Another was in Kentucky, and that was First Principles Press. And then the third one was WorldNet Daily, which just did sexual sabotage.
Okay.
That's a recent one. People should get that and learn about World War II, the truth about our people during World War II.
Okay.
That's critical to understand that, because that's where the lie really began. is to lie about the grandparents and who won the war and saved the world from fascism and so forth and communism, and here we are. So that one. And now Liberty University is planning to republish some of my other works.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward
Well,
to
the reason I was saying the little man, you know,
Yeah.
I think I heard Phil Donahue was trying to make fun of you or something, that some little
Right.
company or whatever, but to
That's
me,
right.
that makes it even grander.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if a small publishing company is willing to do this, and
Yeah.
then you basically get to the point where you're now being commissioned. Was that before or after? Were you commissioned by the Department of Justice?
Department of Justice was before.
That was before.
That was before.
Okay.
That was before they picked that up.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, all of our major publishers wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole.
Okay.
And I'm talking about conservative. I have a letter from Free Press, from the editor, from the owner, publisher of Free Press, Glickus, who was planning to publish my Kinsey expose. And then he said, I can't do it. He said, if I publish anything that you write, he said, I was at a conference with the American Publishers Association, and anybody who publishes anything you write, he said, will be in huge trouble because you're going to interfere with American publishing. And nobody, he said, will publish your work. Which tells me it was quite important.
Yes.